Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Be Healed Web Show. I am your host, Miss Camille R. Perry. Tuning in for another night, another episode on this wonderful Tuesday evening, being the 2nd of November. Like, wow, we're actually in a whole new month, November. The 11th month of 2021. God, you've been good. I mean, literally. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited as we're going through another episode of the Power of Vulnerability series. It's always great to see each and every one of you. Of course, those that are tuning in for the very first time, welcome to the Be Healed Web Show. For those of you that are coming back again, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you for that. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube that you hit subscribe so you can subscribe to the channel and stay connected and in tune with upcoming shows, as well as maybe watch some previous ones. And if you're watching on Facebook, thank you for sharing, liking, resharing, or posting. And we definitely love to see your comments. Audience engagement means so much. And so tonight, kind of had to pivot a little bit. Got to pivot quite a bit, actually. My guest, Dr. Osas Ayi, he is unavailable. He's currently still serving his patients in the beautiful city of Phoenix, Arizona. And so, duty calls, right? With everything that's gone on, how can I ever try to take away someone's ability to serve those who are underserved and those who need it the most, as well as those patients who need their caring doctors. So we're praying for all of the medical staff and personnel as they're continuing to work through this process and this time. So I'm just going to jump in. I said, I kind of been playing around with the idea, been talking to my executive producers, been talking to mentors and friends, and everyone's kind of asked me, how I'm doing, how's the family doing, how's everybody holding up, and since the release of Siapati from this world to heaven, to glory, to a place of rest. And so, I was like, the power of vulnerability. This is my second season of doing this, and I don't really always, just take a moment to have my own vulnerability. Like, don't get me wrong, I'll confess some things. I'll tell the truth about some stuff. Lord knows I do. But, like this might be the time for me to kind of sit in the hot seat, quote unquote, and underneath this occasion of vulnerability or being vulnerable. So it'll be 2 weeks tomorrow that she made her transition. So I rather have the conversation or dialogue, or even just me sharing my heart in this space. And so just to get it out, because I've been quiet for some time. So first I want to say, and I said it last week with my previous guest, and you guys got to check that out if you haven't already. All the previous guests from the Power of Vulnerability series had Brother Kedrick on last week, and then the week before, Brother Mark Harrison. Prior to that, we had Brother Jonathan Wright, and then kicking us off was Dr. Darnell Bing. So definitely check those out. Each of those episodes were fire. And so it's been about 2 weeks. Tomorrow, been about 2 weeks since Siapati transition, and I shared before. Thank you all for the calls, the texts, the Facebook posts, the condolences that's been offered. Greatly appreciated. Let me keep in the form of housekeeping for a second before I go too far. So from housekeeping perspective, her memorial is going to be on November 20th so this month, the third Saturday. We're going to do it on the fourth. Actually, it's the third Saturday, of November. And it's going to be at 11 o'clock at Community Memorial Chapel in San Bernardino. And, of course, with COVID restrictions, we have limited seating. However, we are doing in person and live stream. And so there's a RSVP link, and I'll put that in the chat. But there's RSVP link for individuals if you would like to come and pay your respects to Sia, those who loved her, known her, um, or even read about her story, heard about her story. You can do so. We just need you to fill out that RSVP, just as like a contact trace, but as well as if you want to watch on live stream, we can send you the link so you can check it out on live stream. But nevertheless, I'm gonna continue on because I think I'm dodging my vulnerability. Oh boy, come on, Camille, you're the host of this. You can handle it. Uh, so it's been. I guess I'll take us back to the beginning and then kind of wrap. Kind of share what the process was leading up to the point, and then where we are now. So some of you that have tuned in um, for some time who've been following Be Healed. This web show started in 2020, June of 2020. We started the web show. So that was already a year into, um, almost a full year into Siapati's diagnosis. December of 2020, I was able to actually interview her on my show. So if you're on YouTube, you just gotta scroll back, and if you can go to the Be Healed playlist, Be Healed Web Show playlist, and you can actually see it from there. And so let's see here. So we got a chance. So from June of 2019 through even I would say May of 2021. Um, about May of 2021 was probably the last time she received treatment. May of 2021. So from the start, I believe she started chemo back in August of 2019. So the type of cancer that Siapati had is called nasopharyngeal head and neck cancer. It's an interesting ribbon. It's kind of like a burgundy and cream color ribbon. Not much is known about head and neck cancer. When I say not much is known, people know about it, right? Because it is a cancer that folks have had and have succumbed to, and some have even healed from. But it is not as prominent in the cancer family. So, we have like breast cancer awareness. We have even like right now, November being men's health awareness, and prostate cancer and colon cancer and various things. But it's another type of cancer. And Sapati was showing signs, I want to say in high school, probably about freshman, sophomore year. Sophomore year, she was always having trouble with her sinuses, and it was causing her to have like sinus infections. Like they kept diagnosing her with sinusitis and trying to treat her for that, but it wasn't getting any better. And so about junior year of high school, she was unable to actually like smell or taste. She lost the ability to smell or taste, and or she wouldn't be able to taste everything. She could taste some things like hot Cheetos, had like things had to have like a real pungent and strong taste to it for her to pick it up. It wasn't always that she could pick it up. And that's another thing that I think about through this whole journey, how miraculous the human body is, how awesome God made our bodies, especially when I think about how even when you don't have a taste for something, but you remember what it tastes like, and that kind of triggers you to remember, oh, like if you lost your taste of smell, like some people are dealing with COVID and they lost their sense of taste, and they know what a pepperoni is supposed to taste like. They know they're supposed to have that salt, that kick, that spice. But that's how they kind of been able to identify, like, oh shoot, maybe I have COVID. I can't taste anything. But your mind can cause you to remember and reflect. It's so weird, but I'm telling you, the way God made us is just amazing. I'm really appreciative for it. So about 20, so junior year, she was having trouble. She couldn't really smell, couldn't really taste much. And so a lot of discomfort. And of course, high school, and wanting to hang out with friends and wanting to be, but your nose is constantly running, or, all of these things started to wane on her. And so, senior year, she was still dealing with it, but just knew always had to have tissue with her, and kind of trying to walk her through, like, it's okay, we'll figure it out, we'll get to the bottom of it. And so, 2018, graduate high school. Her and her siblings, they walk across that stage. They get their diploma. I'm hollering like I've done at pretty much all their graduations, making sure that they're real good and embarrassed. But they about 2019 is when the sinusitis started getting more, and she ended up having to get polyps removed in her nasal area, like the nasal cavity and stuff. So they did over at Arrowhead. They did um, polectomy. Is that what they call it when they remove polyps? So they did that for her, and that was like around March of that was around March timeframe, March of 2019. They did that, and so um, continued on. We just continued to move forward, but she was still having quite discomfort. She was still having, what they thought was sinus infections, but it wasn't. And so she ended up growing like she had like her lymph node on her, see, must have been her left side. Her left side, her lymph, her neck started to like swell up. That lymph node started to swell up. And I was looking, I was like, something's not right. Like, so I was just like, we need to figure out what we can do. And so constantly, taking her back to the urgent care, and the doctor saying like, oh, not urgent care, but her particular physician was saying that it was more so, what was the piece of it? More so just do the regimen of antibiotics. It's still sinusitis. It's just frequent sinusitis. She has sinusitis, inflammation. That didn't sit well with me. So June brought her down, told her she's going to hang out with me for a few days, and took her over to Riverside University Health System. And that's where the journey began. And I'll never forget the nurse practitioner that was on duty in the ER. Well, first, let me say this. When we drove from my house, which is 9 minutes door to door to the hospital, when we drove to the hospital, I want to say his name was Dr. Rodney Pete. He was a physician assistant. He was the PA on duty, and we walked right in, which is very rare for a county ER room, right? It's very rare that that even happens. But walked in, they begin to do like the traditional triage, ask the questions, and all that good stuff. And so she but prior to her and I getting there, we were singing the song "Worth Fighting For" by Brian Courtney Wilson. And my baby just, she closed her eyes and she was singing, "There's so much more still worth fighting for." And it didn't take me, I mean, it don't take much for me to cry. So I was already in tears when she was singing, because something on the inside of me knew something wasn't right. Didn't know what degree, but I knew something wasn't right. And so that started our medical overnight stays. That started us being in the hospital for days in and then weeks on. And so that began our journey. So Riverside University Health System here in Moreno Valley was the first hospital that diagnosed and started to treat her for a treatment plan for her to with her cancer. And so, PET scans and MRIs and all these things, right? Um, totally Something totally different, totally new for her to experience. And so those who know Sapati went through this stage where she didn't really like everybody would like give folks hugs. And then she would like, hi, she'll just wave at a distance, hi, you know, kind of off to herself, off to the side. But she wasn't always very open when it came down to, being present She This wasn't her thing. And so it became one of those things where I noticed with her, um, not wanting to be hugged or not wanting to be touched much. I just was like, okay, no problem. Here I am, touchy feely all the time. Always want to cuddle, always want to hug. And so we were in the triage. They were doing blood work, and she sticks out her hand for me to hold her hand. And that was the moment where I was just like, OMG, my baby really, she's feeling some kind of way. She wants me to hold her hand. She wants me to make sure that she's okay. And I did it without a problem. And so held her hand, and that was just again, continue on with a consistent place of holding her hand all the way up until 2 weeks ago, where she transitions on into glory. Um, I'll never, ever stop wanting to hold her hand, ever. I would never stop wanting to be there for her. So that was 2019. Um, Hospital stays, like I mentioned, all the different treatments, all the different, the different prescriptions, the different, you name it, we had to do it. It was big time. It was a lot of changes, and to see her grow, Sapati being more timid, always being more quiet. Sonia's the loud one. Sonia's rambunctious. And when I say loud, not in a negative way. Sonia is just always been very personal, very extroverted. She has her introverted days and moments. Might take them a minute for her to open up, but when she's opened up, she's good. Sapati has always been, since she was a baby, always been more introverted. And so um, watching that, watching her evolve, I remember having to hold her hand for every time they pricked her, or needing to make sure that she was comforted and soothed when the IVs had to go in. And it was different. And then as time went on, as we're getting in the 2020s and 2021s, and Sonia's there with her, and different ones are attending to her needs, and she's getting chemo and she's getting radiation, and sometimes she's in the hospital by herself for a few hours or a few times, and she's taking it. She's not looking or needing someone to be strong for her. God has strengthened her through that. And so there's, not to take you all down like this long history, play by play, because I could talk about my kids forever. I love each of them individually and collectively. So they're amazing individuals. But, when I think about Sapati and I think about the lessons that I learned from her, when I think about the impact that she's made in my life, when I think about how someone, oftentimes people feel like, well, you're the adult, you need to set the standard. And it's true. We as adults, as parental figures, we are to, be that light, kind of be that guide, be that the front portion of that, to try to help our children along and try to guide them where they need to be. Absolutely. Absolutely. That should be our goal. That should be our focus. That should be everything that we need to do. But we're all human. We're all learning as we go. And there's so many things that I learned from her. Lesson one, she would, she, she had no problem with telling you how she felt. Sapati was really good at, she was very, what's the word? I would say, had a high level emotional intelligence, a very high level emotional IQ, very much so. Like she could read, she's very perceptive. She could feel a thing. She would be like, something's not right here. I love that about her. And so, and she had the biggest heart. The girl could forgive. That's one of the lessons that I'm yet learning from her, her ability to forgive. We had a situation here at the house one night. Sonia and I had, every time, every kid wants to try their parent. It happens, So Sonia and I had to, had to have it out. And Sapati was, sitting ringside, and Sapati raised her hand, asked if she could talk, and I was like, I'm like in full, mode. I don't really want to stop because like I'm in it, like I got my words and my energy's high. I'm like and so Sapati raises her hand, and she was just like, I just want to say, in a nutshell, she was like, when me and you have a problem, me and you, we work it out. She was like, it's Sonia, like wanting to make sure, because I kept saying things like y'all and, you all and everything. And she was like, hold on. I don't have the problem. It's this is between you and Sonia. You and I, we're good. So that was a little bit of a laughable moment there. And then I was just like, okay, cool. Thank you so much. You're right. Can I get back to this? And she was like, go ahead. So I get back in full swing, going in. And then she was like, one more thing. At this time, her, the weight loss, was definitely present. At this particular time, she had been through numerous times of chemo and radiation. So the very boisterous of her, the essence of her voice was not as strong as what she would have liked, but it was soft and gentle, really of what she was, just a soft and gentle person. And she says, I have to say, we're family. And sometimes family, they get mad at each other and they don't get along. But at the end of the day, we're a family and we are to love each other. And you talking about taking the fire out, taking the moment of wanting to, just removing all of that and calming down. I mean, calm down completely. And my heart was so overjoyed and overwhelmed in that moment because she settled us both, and we got a chance to focus on the main thing. And the main thing is my love for my girls, my love for my son, my love for my kids, and the love we have for each other. And so, nevertheless, just I'm trying to think of some other times where me and Sapati done had some knockout dragouts. I mean, when there was some times where we'd be in the hospital and she was in pain, she was agitated, she was upset that this was happening to her. There's like a whole process, when you're diagnosed with something, and you're told in the beginning the prognosis isn't good. She didn't have the initial prognosis. One of the doctors, he had such confidence in himself. He was like, "Oh, I can cure this. I can do that." Well, you didn't, right? And I remember when we went back to him and he saw that the masses weren't responding and that the chemo, the radiation wasn't doing what he thought it would do. It wasn't having a reaction. It wasn't eradicated. He was like, I can't do this. He looked so defeated. Bless his little heart. But she took everything in stride, and so there would be times where her and I would not be getting along in the hospital, and my mother would step in or Sonia would step in and cover me for a day or two, and then she would text me, "You ready to come back? You still mad?" And so could never be mad long, and I would have to tell her like, "Hey, you got to check how you talk to people. You got to remember we're here to help you and all this good stuff." And we got through. I mean, we got through. She became a hugger. Oh, my girl became a hugger. I mean, she hugged like nobody's business. Um, she would hug us. She would check in. Um, she was just present. Like things about her just started to change. Even in her sickness, she still had joy. Even though we would go out and, run different errands and spend time with each other. But, we found a way to enjoy, even though it was such a hard situation. So, if you watch the episode back in December 2020, if you watch that episode, she'll talk to you about how, she had the tubes put in, and she was very uncomfortable at a point when the tubes were in, where she didn't, because she had to carry kind of like a little bucket with her for the fluid to leak into, and she didn't like that, so she just wanted to stay at home. She didn't really want to go out. And Sapati loved going to the mall. Sapati loved going shopping. Sapati loved, even when Amazon and DoorDash. I mean, the girl, oh God, Instacart. Oh Lord, she would sit downstairs in my house on her Chase lounge slash bed, and she would just be ordering up a storm. Like, I remember we got the doorbell must have rang 8 or 9 times, and me and Sonia both was like, "Did you order something?" And it was Sapati the whole time. But she got a chance to live, even though the diagnosis was rough. And you know I learned I learned from her how much faith a young person can have in God. And I think oftentimes we think that faith and, a relationship with God is based on a certain age, you living a certain length of time, and or you living a certain length of time, or you being um through so many things, that, oh, that what makes you have faith in God. And it's just like, wait, hold on. You don't It's not an age. Having faith in God isn't an age thing. You can be young, old, it doesn't matter. It's just, where's your faith? Do you have it? And I would see Sapati, having, her gospel playlist, her worship playlist that she would play, even with though, certain scriptures she would recite or ask me to send her, or her and I used to stay on the phone on FaceTime, and I would start singing to her. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm pretty old. Like, I got a real old soul, very very old soul. And so her and I would be singing these old songs to each other, and she didn't mind. She would sing right along because she knew them too. We would sing songs like "How Great Is Our God," which is not that old, but if I was singing like one of them old church songs, like, "I Need Thee," or "Pass Me Not," like, we would just have our time together, our time to worship and spend time with the Lord together. Um, so, it's one of those things where I got a chance to really learn a lot, in her grow in me grow with her in this situation. Um, she had such great faith in God. She would tell me all the time, and her sister would say it too. The doctors have science, but we got God, and God has the final say. And it's so true. It's so true. And it's good. And I'm grateful for doctors. I'm grateful for science and medicine. It's wonderful. But, God does more than what they could ever do. Matter of fact, I mean, He made us. So, of course, He knows. But even how she would adjust. So, remember, I told you guys she had lost sense of taste and smell. That was prior to the diagnosis. During radiation, sometimes the with that type of cancer, because it's in the head and neck region, blindness can happen, as well as loss of hearing. And I remember, when she uh, was saying that she couldn't really hear out of her left ear, and I was like, okay, they said we could watch out for that. I remember when her skin started changing due to the radiation. I remember, she would send me pictures of different, where she was in her journey. Like, oh, look, I don't have eyebrows anymore. Or look, finding Snapchat galore, that would do all that. And so then you have, oh God, when she lost her hearing on her left ear, prior to the tumors actually growing out of her ear, she would be dependent on her right ear. And I would see her adjust Like, okay, I can't hear on this side. What did you say? Okay, cool. And then when she started having issues with eyesight, with blurry eyes, I mean, all kind of side effects, from the medications as well as just from the cancer itself. But to not, because I'm sharing my heart, and I know it's kind of ugly right now, but I'm just being honest. And I'm trying to contain myself too, because Lord knows I could cry at any moment. But, to see how she would adjust herself to the situations of her life. So when it got hard for her to eat and chew and move her jaw, switching to soups and Lord knows ice cream. Oh my God, this girl would make ice cream sundaes at all times of night. I would get notification on my little alarm system because I have a camera in the kitchen. And she would she'd be down there making her ice cream sundae, Um, heating up chicken noodle soup. She just would adjust. She would adjust. Um, and it's one thing about, our being human and being able to survive, being able to, um, accommodate ourselves in learn new ways and new methods to what we might have been restricted. I think about one of the ladies at our church, Sister Maria, when she lost all of her hearing, but she had already knew ASL. She had learned ASL way before she lost her hearing. So it's just adjusting. We as humans, we just learn to adjust to the new situation, the new surrounding. So Sapati, she started trying to learn ASL and started teaching herself ASL and watching YouTubes and all these different things. Like she just began to continue on. And let me tell you guys, looking if looking at how much her body changed to this cancer, looking at how much she, but even though her body got weaker, her soul was getting stronger. Who she who she is was getting stronger. The physical was failing her miserably. But what was the inside, the essence of us? I asked my dad, how would you describe the soul? And he told me years ago, when you look in the mirror, it's the person looking back at you. That's your soul. And like, I was like, oh my God. But when I think about it, and even up until her transition, I remember being in that hospital room with her. And when you're no longer there, when your soul is gone, when your time here is over, it's just a body of where you once lived. And when I tell you, it's these past almost 14 days have been so interesting. Like I've experienced death in my life with the passing of my grandparents on my dad's side, the passing of my great great aunt, and then my great aunt and my great uncles and various ones. Friends, my brother passing in 2020. Like I'm I'm familiar with death. Like I know people die, but each death, each life that leaves is different. It just hits differently. I can't explain it outside of, hey, God has made us as relational beings. We feel things, and every death is going to be different. And these past almost 14 days have just been an emotional roller coaster. I don't really like talking. It's probably why I'm all over the place right now because, I haven't talked about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't. There's what do you say? You Sapati gave me purpose. I know I have a life's purpose. I know that, but for 2.5 years, my purpose, 2.5 years, my purpose was her, advocating, whether it's the Office of the Ombudsman, whether it's Medi-Cal, whether it's IHP, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a nurse. My purpose was to serve her, making sure she had whatever she needed. And when your purpose leaves, because they fulfilled their purpose, man, you kind of feel away. And when I tell you, you know, it's been hard. And I think about how hard it was on her, how hard it was on her body, how tumors and masses would just grow out of her ear and her nose and her mouth. It was hard. But she hung in there. I got videos of her and I thumb warring, or her thumb warring with her sister. Um, when she lost her ability to speak, she's still texting or she's writing. When she lost her ability to see, she's still feeling and writing by hand, by memory, like all the way up to the end. That girl fought. And sometimes we say things like, oh, and don't get me wrong, I said it. God, I wish this was happening to me. Why can't you just give it to me and take it away from her? Because as a parent, as a person who just has compassion, let's just be honest, compassion and love for someone, you don't want, especially someone younger than you, someone who is your child, you don't want to see your child suffering. It's a pain that you just don't want to endure because you can't fix it. And all the time that I would be like, oh, why can't this just happen to me? Look, listen, I ain't no way I could have been as strong as her. Listen, ain't no way. I was laid up in that hospital feeling like I was dying because literally my blood was toxic. And sepsis infection, you know, things were going bad. And I have a, text thread from Sapati and I were texting once I got stabilized and I was able to be a little more coherent. She told me, she said, if mommy girl can go through this, mommy can go through this too. Basically, like, girl, buck up. You gonna be all right, is what she was saying. And she's right, like I had to remember, like, she's dealing with something much worse than I. And not to ever downplay what anyone is going through and try to do a comparison. But the reality, everything that we deal with is big to us and to our particular level, to our particular exchange. Yes, it's big. But you always have to remember somebody else is going through something else that's worse off in a condition than you are. So you might be down with some funds, but there's somebody who's like dead broke and homeless. You might be without a spouse or a partner. There's someone who's been a widow and trying to survive on their. Let's be honest. Like, there's always someone else going through worse. And she she just would, she's stronger than me. Yes, I would advocate. Yes, I had the mama voice. Yes, I had the presence. Yes, I knew how to make people respond or, you know, fight until they did. But she knew how to battle this horrible disease with such grace and peace and strength that I know I don't possess or don't even know how to possess. Oh my God, she was great. One of the things that she said to us before, because she had made the decision, the doctors that talked to us, they wrote down everything to her and explained, how bad the cancer had gotten, and that we were running into all options were gone, and there was no treatment. It was very much terminal, and we were at this place of decisions having to be made. And because she was cognizant, because she could still communicate even through written form, they had to ask her. And when she made her decision, only God can give a person peace like that. Only God can do that. And she told us to look on the bright side. I have so many messages from her, for her telling me from even last year to early this year, something happens to me, I don't want you guys to be sad. I'll be 100% healthy in heaven. Like, everybody talks about heaven who's a Christian. I would say that. Let me say everybody who, or not even a Christian, but those that believe in heaven. There's some people who don't ascribe to Christianity, but they talk about heaven. I don't get it, but they do. Hey, it is what it is. Um, she would talk about, I mean, people talk about heaven all the time, but I want to go to heaven. I do. My desire is to go to heaven. I don't want to go to hell. Oh, that sounds horrible. The place is horrible. Can't do that. But I'm not trying to go right now. When I was sick and feeling myself leave here, I wasn't ready to go. At no point was I ready to go. And then here she is, 22, like, girl, look on the bright side. I can eat all the sandwiches I want in heaven. I can talk, I can hear. I mean, so as much as I miss my baby, as much as Sonia misses her twin, as much as Tavita misses his big sister, as much as Ben and Geraldine miss their daughter, as much as all of us miss her, I couldn't bribe her to come back here if I tried. And that's something, I'm grateful for the life that she lived. I'm grateful for the example. I'm grateful that I learned that not only can you love and you can forgive, but how God can heal you even while you're battling a terminal disease. And healing, like this show is all based on, be healed. Healing isn't linear. Healing doesn't look a certain way. You know, every healing isn't on this side. You know, complete healing is in heaven. Every trauma isn't one to take your life away. Every mountain, every valley, every peak, every moment, it's something for us to learn and grow from. So much I've learned from my baby. But in all in all of this, I've been, remaining silent on a lot of things because sometimes I feel words just can't do it. My heart is broken. I miss her, but her time had come. I think to myself, I don't have, I won't ever get a chance to see her, fall in love or, tell me that she's bringing this person home and wants my opinion or, picking out a wedding dress and all these things. But it's okay. She got what she needed. She needed a new body that wasn't sick. She needed a new home that nothing could ever soil it, could ever happen to her. She needed peace that this world couldn't offer. This world couldn't do it. And though I miss her with everything in me, knowing that she had such a relationship with God, knowing that she believed on him and that she knew it wasn't like she wasn't mad at God, like, oh God, why did you do this to me? This is unfair. She was just like, this is my life. I got to go through it. Like, she never got mad at God like that. It was just like she would say, I hate that I'm sick or I hate that this is happening, but I'm a survivor. I'm gonna fight through it. And she did, and so whew, It'll be 14 days tomorrow. And my mind just goes back and I think about all the good times, all the moments, all the conversations, all the laughter. I think about sometimes where I didn't show up too well, she didn't show up too well, but how God still restored and helped us both. I think about the shifting, the changing that she experienced in her body, but yet the peace that God gave her in her heart. And I think about the last time that I saw her. She was resting, she was asleep, held her hand, prayed with her, loved on her. But when you understand that God loves you more than how much you love your loved one, what can you say? But God, have your way. So, what I can say to each and every one of you, because I think we all get into this place where we know that something's not right in our body, but we don't advocate for ourselves enough to go get the assistance, the aid that we need. Stop that. I don't care if you're afraid of doctors. I don't care if you're afraid of needles. I don't care if you don't like, oh, it's COVID. I don't want to be out. If something is wrong with you, if your body doesn't feel right, go see a physician. Absolutely. I am a huge proponent of supporter and promoter of prayer. You better pray. Absolutely. Prayer is always in order. Pray to the Lord. Absolutely. He is our healer. Absolutely. But he didn't make doctors for no reason. He didn't make hospitals just for kicks and giggles. Okay? Go get treated. Figure out what's wrong with you. And whatever is wrong, whatever the situation, we'll deal with it as it comes, but don't not go. Please. I'm talking to some men because there's still power of vulnerability. Men, go get checked. This is Men's Health Month. Go get checked. Prostate, check. Get checked. I know the process was probably very humiliating. Doesn't feel comfortable. I get it. Well, I don't get it, but I can imagine. I mean, okay. Okay, cool. Just do it. Whatever it is, go get seen. It's okay. And if it is whatever it is, we trust God that He'll make a way, He'll heal anyway. I'm praying for each and every person who is pending a diagnosis and doesn't want to go. Like, I don't want to go to the hematologist tomorrow. I don't. I don't. But I am going because I need to figure out what's going on with me. Why is my blood still clotting? Like, what's going on? Why am I still on blood? I got to figure out what's going on with me. And whatever it is, I got to trust God that He knows what's best for me. Whatever is going on in my body, I have to trust God enough to say, okay, God, I know I'm not here to stay forever anyway, but can you help me through this? My baby showed me the blueprint on how to suffer on this side and still find a reason to smile, to laugh, to joke. What more for us? You know, get checked, get go to the doctor, tell a loved one what's going on. If some of you are sitting on a diagnosis because you've been told something, you're pushing people away. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. We are not islands. We are not meant to stand alone. We are meant to be with one another. So do that. If there's something going on in your mind, and mental health is always a focus, talk to someone, go to therapy. Yes, prayer works, absolutely. But He didn't make therapists for no reasons either. Okay? Therapy, God and therapy work. Okay. I'm gonna close this out because clearly I'm so glad I'm getting this out now. So hopefully, when I have to speak at my baby's service, it'll be more cohesive and clear and not this long. Definitely not this long. Whew, I'm gonna do like 4 minutes max. Um, but I've learned so many lessons from Siapati. I learned faith. There's no age limit for faith. Number one. Number two. You're more resilient than you think. God will show you a way. Embrace it. And be confident and be comfortable and be content and be ready for whatever comes your way and know that God's with you. She would tell me all the time, God's got me. God's got me. When she told me one time, she said, God hasn't told me it's time yet. And I said, well, will you let me know when he does? She was like, will do. So when we talked at the bedside the Friday before she passed, she was like, you know what I decided to do? I said, yeah. She told me she loved me. She knew that I loved her. I told her I loved her. I mean, we spent, when you've done all you can, what else is there to say but thank you, Lord? So continue to pray for each and every person. If they cross your mind, pray for them. You never know what God is leading you to do, but always allow yourself a place to know, how do I want to say this? But always allow yourself an ability to be sensitive to someone else's needs. You don't have to feel the need. If you can, praise God. But if you can't, pray because God can. I mean, pray anyway because God can do more than us anyway. But love on one another. Forgive one another. I'm working on that. Lord knows I'm working on that. Forgive one another. Be kind to one another. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace. Advocate for yourself. Find someone who can, or have a trusted person who can advocate for you on your behalf. Do those things. But I gotta go. It's time. It's almost 8 o'clock. And I hate the fact that I'm not as succinct as I would want to be, but this is my vulnerability. And vulnerability is messy. Okay. Vulnerability isn't always just, oh, here's my 4 points. No. Um, I don't have children. I can't make children. It wasn't my lot, and I'm okay. God blessed me at 15 to be a godmother of 5 children. Ashley, Ben, Siapati, Tavita, Siapati, Sonia, Tavita, from one family, and I'm grateful for that. And I've got 3 other guy kids, Nola, KK, and Nugget. But my starting five, my starting five, at 15, I became a godmom. And who would have known 22 years later how important that would be? You don't know what life is going to, I was just talking to my friend about this tonight. We don't know how life is going to direct us. We don't know how it's going to turn out. We don't know our story. God does. But we have to trust the one who's orchestrating our story. Sapati did not know this would be how her story would end. We didn't know, but God knows. And at the end of the day, all his stories that he has given us here on this life, whether as few or as long as the years we have, whatever it might be, it's good. It's been good. Yes, there's been bumps and hiccups along the way, but he makes it for our good. So, I can't ever not talk about the Lord because he's just that deep in my heart. And to be honest with you, if I didn't have him, there's no way I could be standing, talking, and even being present with anybody. But y'all listen, get yourself checked out. Remember you matter. Remember, not only do you matter, but you're needed, you're necessary. So do what you need to do to get well. And for those of you that are battling cancers or battling various diseases or discomforts, trust God through it all. Yes, it sucks. Yes, it's bad. But God didn't do this to you. Sin in the world. It's a fallen world we live in. But God is still gracious. He's still merciful. He's still there. He'll never leave you. He got you. Even those of us who are mourning, those that are dealing with great sadness due to being mourning and in bereavement, God is still a comforter. He's the God of all comfort. Turn to him. This is not the time to throw your fist in the air and get mad at him. This ain't it. This ain't the time. God, I trust you. This hurts my heart to no end. but God, I still trust you. So y'all be blessed. Next week, we're going to have Pastor Warren Jones on. He's going to share his story. He's going to talk about from his power of vulnerability experience. We're going to hear from him. Then we're going to close out. I have another gentleman, Judge Robinson, on that following week on the 16th. And then the 23rd, I have I have a few other guests on the 23rd and the 30th. The charts are not my heart that I don't remember now, but keep tuning in. It's going to be great. Okay. This series is necessary. It's, we need to be more vulnerable with one another. We need to tell the truth. We need to share what's from my heart. And even though it's taken me a while to say anything, I just know my daughter's in a better place. I know that she is with the Lord. I know that she's resting from her issues down here. And that gives me great comfort. And yes, it's going to be ugly and messy. My makeup's going to run. My eyelashes going to come. Whatever it might be. I'm going to holler. I'm going to scream. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to trust God because God is faithful. So y'all go get checked out. Y'all go make sure you're well. And if you're not feeling well, just know that we're here. If you need somebody to talk to, you can reach out to me. I'm here. I'll pray and be with you, hold your hand all the way through it because we need one another. So until next time, everyone, thanks for those who are able to tune in on tonight. May God bless you. May God keep you. May you continue to grow in his grace. May you continue to experience his love all around you. And yes, life is hard, but life is so much better with God. Give him a try. Talk to you soon.